Hello everyone. Today we will learn about triggers in Power Automate. So Power Automate connectors we have discussed in the last video are split into two categories, triggers and actions. So here we will focus on triggers in Power Automate, such as what is trigger in Power Automate and what types of trigger are available in Power Automate and how to use this type of trigger in Power Automate. So what is trigger in Power Automate? In Power Automate, a trigger is an event that initiates the execution of a flow. It is the first step of the flow followed by at least one action. As Power Automate includes a lot of connectors, some of which include built-in triggers. For example of the triggers in Power Automate are when a new email arrives, it will trigger a flow when a new email arrives in the Office 365 Outlook. And another example of the trigger is when an item is created. So when new item is created in the SharePoint list, the flow will start triggering and it will follow. So when an item is created, this will trigger a flow when a new item is created in the SharePoint list and followed by at least one actions. Similarly, we have different types of triggers in Power Automate to initiate a flow. So now let's see types of triggers in Power Automate. In Power Automate, trigger are divided into three types. That is automate trigger, that is also known as event trigger, and manual trigger, which is also known as instant trigger, schedule trigger, which is also known as recurrence trigger. Now let's discuss about the first trigger, that is automatic trigger. Within Power Automate, we can create an automated cloud flow. To build such workflows, it is necessary to create an automated trigger which is actually initiate the flow in response to a specific event. That means let's take an automatic trigger, that is when an item is created in the SharePoint. When an item is created, so this trigger will trigger automatically whenever a item is created in the SharePoint list. We don't need any manual response in this trigger. So next is the manual trigger, or it is also known as instant trigger. So these triggers are used to initiate the instant cloud flow. These are the flows that can be initiated manually with a button click or from a mobile applications. So our third trigger is the schedule trigger or recurrence trigger. These triggers are used to start scheduled cloud flow. These flows are initiated on a specific scheduled time. We can set up the flow to run at a given hour on a specific day, as well as determine the frequency of the flow execution. So this type of so these are the three types of trigger which are available in the Power Automate. So in the next video, we will see how we can use this trigger to create our flow. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Hello everyone. In this video, we will see how to use triggers in Power Automate. In last video, as we discussed, there are three different types of triggers in Power Automate. That is automate trigger, manual trigger, and schedule trigger. So in this tutorial, we will see how we can use this trigger in Power Automate. So let's start with automate trigger. So how we can create automate trigger in Power Automate. So this is my Power Automate. So here I will create a trigger, as trigger is the first step of every cloud flow in Power Automate. So the automate trigger is only used in automated cloud flow. So we will create an automated cloud flow, and here we need to provide a flow name. Before that, I will tell you what I am going to do. So as in SharePoint site, I have a project tracker list. Whenever a new item get created in the, or you can say whenever a new project is created in this list, then an email notification is sent to me. So for this, I will create an automated cloud flow, and I will select when an item is created, and I will select create. I will switch to classic designer. So this is the trigger action when an item is created. and it is a automated trigger. So whenever a item get created in the SharePoint list, this this action will trigger, and after that we will send an email to someone, or I will send the email to myself. So now trigger the action, I need to select the site address. So here the site address is TSInfo Tech Developer, and list name, I think it is project task. It is written here project tracker, but it is not showing here. I will try project list. So in the next step, we will send an email. This is a trigger. After that we will add the actions. So when the flow get trigger, what the flow will do? After that, what the flow will do, we will add those actions after the trigger actions. So here I will select send an email V2 actions. So here I need to provide the email address. So I will provide my email address, Haripriya. And here the subject is new project is added. And here I will add the project details. From this is the dynamic content from where we can add the project details. So if I will go to the trees priority start date due date. Okay. So here I will add title, and I will select the title. Here I will select the category. Let's take the category value, and then I will select the start date and end date of the project. Let's add start date. First, I write here start date. From here, I will search start. So here, select start date. So that's all I will send to myself. Now, if I will save the flow and I will click on test, then I will run the flow. Click on paste button. Now, if I will create an item, so here I will create an item. Let's say work item, Power Automate task, leave request. Let's remove. So it is a leave request application. Let's say select the category planning, and here I will tell progress is not started, priority is high, and start date is select the start date. Let's say 15, and the due date is, let's say, January 18, and it is assigned to, let's say, Ganesh, and we will save this flow. Now if I will go back to my flow, our flow is running. So here you can see our flow ran successfully when an item get created in the SharePoint list, and we got an email. So if I will open my Outlook, here you can see new project added. So this is the project details. All we have filled in that SharePoint list item form. So this is how we can use automate trigger. There are many other triggers. So we will use some of the triggers in the coming sections of this Power Automate tutorial. Now next move forward to the manual trigger. So now next move forward to the how to use manual triggers. So for this I will take an example of, let's say we have a document library that is invoice. I want to copy these files to the Word document library. There is a folder called invoice. So I want to copy those two files to this folder. So how I can do this in manual trigger? So for this, I will go to the automated cloud flow. Here I will create a manual trigger for this, and the manual triggers are only used in instant cloud flow. So, and it is also known as instant triggers. So now click on the instant cloud flow. So here you need to provide the file name. So here I will select the trigger as manually trigger a flow, and then click on create. Here I will switch to classic designer. So here we have added a manually trigger a flow. Here we can add an input like text, yes or no file. When this flow will trigger, it will ask you for these inputs like Let's say you want to upload a file from here, from your device. So you will choose the file input, and when you trigger this flow manually, it will ask you to upload a file, and then only it will trigger. So I will not take anything as an input. So I will trigger the flow manually only. So in the next step, I will copy the file. I will use the copy file action to copy file from one folder to another. So here you can see the copy file action. Before that, we need to get all the files from the SharePoint list. For this, I will use another action, that is get files action. This action will fetch all the files available in that particular folder. So now let's select the site address, library name. So our library name is invoice, as that library doesn't contain any folder, so we don't need to provide any entries related to folder. Now we will select the current site address, and I will select TSInfo Tech Developer, file identifier. So here I will select the file identifier. As we have two files in the SharePoint library, that's why we will apply to each action is added to our flow. So it will loop through each file and it will get the ID of each file, and we will copy that file to destination folder. So here we need to provide the destination site address. In this case also our destination site address is TSInfo Tech Developer, and here I need to provide the destination folder. From here I will select the destination folder. So our destination folder is Word. In Word library we have invoice folder, so this is our destination folder. If another file is already there, let's say there is another file with the same name, then it will, what this action will do. So there are three options for that. Like you can copy the file with a new name, or fail this action, or replace. So I will choose replace. Now click on save. So in this case, we don't need to create any file in the folder. Here within a button click, we can trigger a flow, and the flow will do all the work for us. So now let's click on test button to test the flow. Now click on manually, then click on paste button. Then click on continue. Then click on run flow. Then click on done. Okay, our flow run failed. The existence of source object at HTTPS. So here we are getting an error. This error is coming due to the file identifier we have provided. So we have provided the wrong file ID, that's why it is coming error. So we need to correct it. So here I will switch to classic designer. So expand the apply to each action. Here you can see copy file action. Here we have provided the identifier of the file as ID. So that's why this is taking as a wrong ID. So here we need to provide the identifier. By selecting this, we can solve this error. Now let's click on paste, then click on manually, then click on test button. Now click on run flow. Now click on done. Here you can see our flow is running. Now you can see our flow runs successfully. If I will go to the site, here you can see the file is copied to the invoice folder in the Word library. So this is how we can use manually trigger. Now next move forward to the schedule triggers or recurrence trigger. Use schedule trigger. We will create an schedule cloud flow. So here we need to use the schedule trigger. We need to schedule the flow based on the time and frequency. The flow will trigger. Let's say you want to trigger a flow every day 10 a.m. Every day 10 a.m. the flow will trigger and it will perform the task you have defined. So now let's trigger the flow. So let's say 16/11 2010 a.m. and let's take every day and create the flow. Here I will switch to classic designer. So we have scheduled the trigger. So once we schedule the trigger, it is coming like this: interval interval as 1 and frequency as day. As every day it will run the flow at 10 a.m. So in next, once the flow get trigger, it will send an email to the employee who's having the work anniversary. So for this, I will use this employee information SharePoint list. Based on the joining date, we will send an email. If the joining date is equal to today's date, then let's say 11:15. So if the today's date is 11:15, then we will send an work anniversary greetings to the Rosaline. And if the today's date is 11:16, as today's date is 11:16 only, so we will send the work anniversary greetings to the Haripriyadhal. So now let's see how we can do this. So every day the flow will run and it will check the joining date, and it will, if the joining date is equal to today's date, then send an email to that employee. So now let's create a flow as we have created. So we will get items from that employee. So first we will get items from that list. So for this we need to provide the site address and list name. So select the site address as the prime jobs and select the list name which say employee information. Next, we will check whether the date is equal to today's date. For this, we will use the condition action. So our first value is the condition today's date. As in Power Automate, when we retrieve the items from the SharePoint list, the date is coming as YYMMDD format. Format this date to MMDD. So from here we will select the joining date. As we have multiple items in the SharePoint list, that's why it's apply to each action to the flow. And here I will copy this joining date and then I will use in the expression, and I will format this joining date as MMDD format. Select the expression and then format date time. So we will learn about expression in the coming session. Next, click on comma, and here we need to provide the format of the date. So I need MMDD format. Okay, the expression is invalid. So here we have provide the at the rate. So not be in the expression. So let's click on OK. Now it will accept our expression. Now we will format the current date as MMDD format. To get the current date and time, we will use UTC now function and comma, and we will format this as MMDD format, and then we will click on OK. In the next step, we will send an email to that employee. So for this, I will select send an email V2 action. Here I will choose the employee name. So from dynamic content, I will choose employee name email, and then here I will give the subject. So here I will write congratulations on your work anniversary. Here I will wish you happy work anniversary. I will write as in our email body. Write hi employee display name. Wish you happy work anniversary. So our email is set. Now we will paste our flow. So for this I will click on save and then click on test. Paste the flow. Now click on manually. Then click on test button. Then click on run flow. Then click on done. Here our flow is running. Here you can see our flow runs successfully. So if I will go to the list, the third item is equal to the today's current date and month. So it will send an work anniversary email to Haripriya Dhal. So if I will go to the Haripriya Dhal email, then you can see here we got the email as wish you happy work anniversary. Similarly, every day it will run the flow, check the joining date of that employee, and it will send an email if the joining date is equal to the today's date is equal to the today's month and day, then it will send an work anniversary email to that person. So this is how we can use the triggers in Power Automate. That's all for today. We will see you on next video. Thank you so much.